Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. Now let's take a look at some of the pictures you send into our Eyewitness portal. First is this one from Jabi area of Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, showing cows on the motorway. Our Eyewitness reporter is asking the authorities to check the excesses of herdsmen in the FCT. We also have this one from Giri Junction, Abuja, showing heavy fuel queue. Our Eyewitness reporter says fuel is still scarce in the FCT. This next picture is from Lokogoma area, also in the Federal Capital Territory, showing a container overweighing the conveying truck. Our Eyewitness reporter wants traffic wardens to be at alert. So that's the picture from Lokogoma area, which is also in the FCT, showing a container overweighing the conveying truck. The picture you saw before that one is from Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, showing an overloaded truck. Our Eyewitness reporter wants men of the Federal Road Safety Corps to look out for such traffic offenders. And finally, it's this one from Surulere in Lagos State, showing two police officers in fisticuffs. Our Eyewitness reporter wants the State Police Command to check this act of lawlessness within the police force. Well, we thank you for sending in those pictures and urge you to keep them coming. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says 1,082 trucks of premium motor spirit were loaded and distributed nationwide yesterday. A daily PMS supply and distribution nationwide schedule released today indicates that 20 import vessels laden with a total volume of 830.079 million litres have been confirmed to arrive this month for the NNPC. The schedule adds that the combined national stock, that's for marine and inland, is over 700,000 litres. In addition, 8 NNPC and marketers vessels are currently discharging at various depots and jetties nationwide, while 16 NNPC import and shuttle vessels have been programmed to do ship-to-ship operations for onward discharge to inland depots. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, and some members of the lower chamber have visited the internally displaced persons camp in Yola. The Speaker says the visit became necessary to get a first-hand view of the plight of the IDPs. Other officials of the federal government also visited the camp to distribute various work tools to about 1,000 beneficiaries from areas affected by the insurgency.
This is the first time a high-ranking member of the House of Representatives will be visiting the IDP camp in Yola and the Northeast in general. Honorable Yakubu Dogara and some members of the lower chamber were at the Damore camp of the internally displaced persons in Yola, Adamawa State to sympathize with their situation. Relief materials were also distributed, which include 800 bags of rice, 300 bags of maize, a large number of blankets, detergents and wrappers. The Speaker, in company of the Director General of NEMA, also distributed food items to the IDPs. He applauds President Buhari and the military in their efforts in fighting insurgency in the Northeast and appealed to the military to clear the Sambisa forest to enable the return of the IDPs to the liberated areas.
Security is uppermost, not just the food that we have come to present. And we know that if we were to keep you here and feed you with the base of things, with the base of food, with the fat of the earth, you will never be satisfied until you have gone back to the place you have grown to know as home.
While welcoming the Speaker, the Director General of NEMA, Mr. Sani Sidi, gives a brief history of the Damare IDP camp in Yola. In the same vein, the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, also in Yola, the Adamawa State capital, continued in its effort at providing relief to those affected by the insurgency. It is the first visit by a senior American government official to the camp. The state coordinator of NEMA, Honorable Saad Bello, received the United States Permanent Representative to the UN, Ambassador Samantha Power, at the camp and conducted her around the facilities, which include the clinic, the sewing center, and the social center. Ambassador Power then proceeded to the Malkohi unofficial camp, a few kilometers from the official one, where she interacted with the leaders of the IDPs and gave reasons for her visit.
I have come here from the United States with a high-level delegation in order to find out what more we can do to defeat Boko Haram so that you can go home. And also, of course, to see how you are living and how, in support of the Nigerian government, we can ensure that you can live with dignity.
Indeed, it's been a wonderful experience for the government officials and Ambassador Samantha Power. Efforts to ensure that these IDPs get the much-needed relief is now what is uppermost on everyone's minds.
Well, the U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Samantha Power, has been speaking about why the United States of America was skeptical in her participation to ensure the end of insurgency in Nigeria when the insurgency was at its peak during the administration of former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. The envoy told a press conference at the American University of Nigeria to round off her visit to the IDP's camp in Adamawa State that even though her country was not fully involved in an attempt to curtail the ravaging Boko Haram mercenaries, the U.S. was investing in the security aspect of Nigeria. She says the U.S. government was monitoring the political will of the federal government then to tackle the insurgency and was not really comfortable with the corrupt tendencies that were associated with the issue of those fighting the insurgency. Power says, quote, "When the Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government came on board, the U.S. recognizes full commitment to stop the insurgency and the anti-corruption crusade. The U.S. had no alternative than to back the present administration." End of quote. Ambassador Power added that the U.S., as part of its new resolve and commitment, is now training a battalion of soldiers that will soon return home to face the insurgents head-on. She says that the battalion will be a high-performing one, equipped with American terrorism combat and techniques. Troops of the Nigerian army say it has averted yet another suicide bombing catastrophe on Umarari community by suspected Boko Haram terrorists in Borno State. A statement issued by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, says the suicide bomber was intercepted by the vigilant troops and the civilian JTF while making attempts to enter the village. Colonel Usman adds that the suicide bomber detonated the strapped improvised explosive device vest on his body, killing himself instantly after he was forced to stop based on suspicion that he was carrying suicide bombing material. Well, the Nigerian army operating in Borno State, northeast Nigeria, has asked the federal government to prioritize the rehabilitation of internally displaced persons who were rescued from Boko Haram terrorists. The commander of 22 Brigade in Dikwa, Brigadier General Benjamin Sawyer, observes that a lot of the children have already been radicalized and need urgent attention. Our correspondent, Amy Thompson, tells us more in this report.
The years of violence by the Islamic sect Boko Haram has left a large part of Borno State devastated and empty. Over 20 of the 27 local government areas was at the peak of the insurgency under the control of Boko Haram. This is the main market in Gambaru town, in Gambaru Ngala local government area. It is a shadow of itself. It used to be a beehive of activities. However, after the rescue by the Nigerian army, the villagers are just returning. 20 other local government areas are now under the watchful eyes of the Nigerian army. With the recapture of towns, many indigents have found the courage to return home, but this comes with pressing needs.
In this local government, we don't have any school is functioning, no hospitals, and this road was officially closed. And we here, Ngala is agrarian area, and we are businessmen, we are fishermen, so we want them to open this road for us.
Sources of water was also affected in the attacks, leaving the people without potable water.
Yes, we have set up a team to all the various local governments to go and rehabilitate the existing boreholes, and then we are looking at how to drill more newer boreholes so that the water needs would be accomplished.
There are also needs which are not physical. After spending so much time close to violence, some children have become radicalized.
The military has set up Operation Safe Conduct, which is to take in repentant BHT who wants to be reabsorbed into the society. Equally too, it is important that these children are taken to corrective homes, which could be handled by the state government so that they can de-radicalize them at this younger age.
The army warns that if the de-radicalization is not prioritized, it could pose serious security issues in the future. Ini Thompson reporting for Channels Television News.
Physically, the internally displaced persons are ready to return home. But are they ready to return home mentally? Joining me now to talk about this is a psychologist, Dr. Maimuna Kadri. Thank you so much for joining me on the News at 10.
Thank you.
So, listening to that report, we see that they are quite excited to be going back home.
Definitely.
But do you think that these people are mentally ready to go back home?
The truth is that that hasn't been prioritized, and like what the general said, that should be very key on our plate right now. Because if you are just looking at the physical, we just missed it. Quite a number of these children quite a number of these people that are internally displaced, they are children. And like he said, a lot of them have been radicalized. So to really radicalize them, they need a lot of counseling, therapy. But the truth is that it must be culturally appropriate. It's not just about me being a psychiatrist or a psychologist just going to Borno and then infusing my own beliefs into them. I must get people that are locally accepted, locally respected as professionals to train. We call it train the trainer kind of thing. So that they will be able to get these people in their own language, in their own culture, in their own health beliefs and concept of the health. So it's not just about people just coming in. They must be able to accept it in a culturally appropriate manner.
But then do you think that these people will even accept accept the fact that maybe they need to be spoken to, need to be talked to get them to reorientate their minds? Because not a lot of people believe in psychologists in the first place.
You are very right. The truth is that internally displaced people, some of them are already vulnerable before this displacement. While some during the displacement, they also prone to some other health hazard. And of course, now resettlement and reintegration back into the society has its pros and cons. It's not just taking them back and abandoning them. There must be community-based healthcare services that we put in place that after some time it will be re-evaluated. It must be looked into. So it's not just a one-stop thing. There must be given a period of time to look into this, because the post-traumatic stress disorder, the diagnosis can only be made 3 to 6 months after.
Yes,
I was
going to ask you that question, Dr. Kadri, if these returnees are prone to any form of mental disorders.
Obviously. In fact, studies show that in Guatemala, 20 years after the refugees were resettled, about 12% of them had post-traumatic stress disorder. Over 54% of them had anxiety. So these people definitely are prone to mental health challenges. They are definitely prone, because among internally displaced, the 4 highest mental health challenges they have been recorded are post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and somatization. That is bodily changes to emotional issues. So they shouldn't be counted, that they must be looked into, and government must put appropriate measures into place. If it hasn't been set, it must be put into place. Get the locals, because that is the language they understand most, to be able to get that to be done.
Yes, now, because we actually heard that some of these returnees have actually contemplated suicide. So is there some form of medical help for them?
Yes, the truth, for us as psychiatrists and psychotherapists in practice, the truth is that we know when you meet the bridge line, because depression is quite high. Even here in Nigeria, it's just that it's not a readily discussed issue. If they've contemplated suicide, that's because they've been displaced, and returning back home, they may be happy returning back home, but there are a lot of thought-provoking, anxiety-provoking issues they will face, because that same environment will bring a lot of bad memories. People, their loved ones, they lost their loved ones, they lost homes. Look at, there's no water, no light, a lot of issues. So is beyond what we're seeing. It's skin deep. It's not just the physical. It's not just that they've been eating well. Some were being sexually abused. Some will have passed through rape. And even the UN general principles guiding internally displaced people, Principle 19 actually stipulated, address the health challenges. They said, those things must be given to the most vulnerable. Women, children, elderly, disabled. If they need health care, they should be given promptly. So now returning, this is now post-relocation. A lot has to be done. If it hasn't been done, a lot, which I said is not only the government, it must be multi-agent that will pull resources together, that will be most effective, efficient, and culturally appropriate and financially feasible. It must, because if you don't have the money, the truth is that some of these things may not actually be done. So it's not a government only thing. Multi-agencies have to be brought together to do that. I was just going to get to that. So if we keep saying that we need the government to, work with the IDPs, we also have to remember that we have NGOs who are volunteering their services as well, especially when we're talking about those ones who collect data. So in what ways can these ones pitch in without necessarily stopping what the federal government or state governments intend to do for these IDPs? It's working hand in hand with the government. As a registered non-governmental organization, you already put yourself in that position to help whenever it is necessary. So it's even reaching out to know that we can do this. Myself as an individual, I may not say, okay, I want to do that, but I can work with other organizations to say this is what we can do. Because the crisis, I keep saying, the IDPs are like time bombs. I'm afraid they're like time bombs because these people are our future leaders. And if certain things are not done right now, we are bound to see a lot of anger, resentment from these future leaders. There'll be a lot. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of joining hands together, all hands have to be on deck to resolve their mental and psychological issues. Dr. Kadri, thank you so much for coming on the news at 10. Thank you. We're still ahead on the news at 10. Religious leaders proffer solutions to ethno-religious conflicts in Nigeria. Join us again.